All right, good learning experience. See, you've got the 3 indentations there. Okay. Come on. The middle one goes in the middle. All right. Once you do that, you can kind of push in. One-handed, yay. Well, okay, we'll try this side. Okay, I'll try my right hand. Left hand is not good for a lot. See? All 3 of them do that. Oop. These are pretty easy to deal with. There it is. That's on how it should be. All right, so I'm gonna take my brand new bearing. Oh yeah, when it came time to putting these hubs back on, they are press fit. Did not use my press. There's not a lot of pressure. I went and go ahead and blast me at this point. Tap, 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 tap with the outer ring off. Tap, 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 tap with a hammer and gently tapped it down. As soon as it got to the point where it started to get a little tougher, and when you do that, remember you need to line up the synchro tab with this slot, okay? Then I just put that on there, and I just tapped the hub down, and both of them went down nice and easy. There was not too much pressure. So this you can put on a similar way. I'm gonna go ahead and pre-lube it with ATF. I guess a gear would help, eh? So, but that's okay. I'm gonna pre-lube it with ATF. And then for this, I have old bearing races. Okay, so I'm gonna put this over the top of it like that, and I'm gonna hammer on the bearing race. If for some reason it's too tight, which I don't think this was, then I'm gonna put the assembly in the press. Here's a little tip. Sometimes they're like, hey, what the heck's going on? Just spin it, it'll slide right on. All right. Okay. These get a little sticky. When I first put it on, it was locked into the synchro, and it wouldn't move any more than that, so I just kept going, and finally it broke loose. If you can't get it to break loose, shouldn't be a big deal as long as you're pre-lubing the synchros. Here's my stash, my new stash. I haven't pre-lubed this yet. This is a new one. Get everything wet, or better yet, soak it in Dextron 3 or Mercon Dextron non-synthetic ATF. Soak them before you put them on, or at least get them nice and wet. Okay, and so I am going to put ATF on this. After it's on, I'm just gonna rub it around the perimeter. So for now, let's see how tight of a press I have. You can use a torch. So I don't like to hammer too hard on things. This one, I might have to chuck up on my press. I'm gonna do this a little bit more off camera, and if it has to go onto the press, I'll film it. If I'm able to get it as is, then I'll let you know. Did not require a huge amount. I just kept tap, tap, tap steadily, and it went down. You can tell when it's all the way down, it changes pitch. That means you're bottomed out. Okay, we're bottomed out. So, thank you. I'll be taking that old one and using that also. That's why I always like to save old bearings and old races. They're very handy for pressing things on. So at this point now, I'm just going to, get this nice and lubed up. Okay, after I'm done with that, I'm gonna flip this puppy back around. We might be ready to start reassembling the case. So I've opted to do this way. I did have it in my press, and I was tapping on that, and it was going up, and it wasn't It wasn't so much force that I was nervous about it having issues. So I probably could have driven it all the way up, especially if you heat that up first. Oh, here's the proper orientation. Those little grooves go up towards the gears. But it was really slow moving. So instead I've opted to just do this. Off camera, I forgot to put the synchro back into here. Some of you eagle-eyed people might notice. Boy, I was kind of pissed off about that. Luckily, I was able to remedy it without messing up my bearing because there was a huge gap where the synchro could have gone. So I just put the bearing separator in there and pulled it out. But, whatever. Anyway, you don't need to see this. So take this opportunity to inspect your bearings, guys. This bearing is destroyed. Trying to get you a good angle. Yeah, see? It's destroyed. I'm glad I caught that. I don't know what caused that. So I'm gonna have to pull that off. You can put a bearing separator under here, but I'm just gonna cut the cage off, put the bearing separator here and pull it off, and I'll replace the bearing. The race doesn't look bad at all, but I'm gonna try to pull that out. That's not easy to pull out. I might have a train supply place where I get my parts locally. I gotta get like a 2-jaw puller under there to pull that out. There's little hooks under there. This was easy enough. I snipped the cage off of it, and once I did that, I put this onto there and simply used my 2-jaw puller to pull that off. So now putting the new one on is very simple. Get it on there square, go like yay, and watch everything go flying because I'm doing this one-handed. I'm gonna try, although you don't really need to see this done, but what the heck. Watch me do it and watch me screw it up. Okay, bearing is, oh come on you piece of junk. LM2742. That might not be a 2. Let me zoom in. LM2749. Okay. So I'm gonna get this started. Just don't hit your race. Okay. I'll finish it off. Now I'm gonna just hit that. All right, but I'm gonna do it off camera so I don't jack up my race. We're gonna take this opportunity to talk about a few more things. Okay, always keep your camera lens clean. Check your tip. This one is really pitted. I'm thinking somebody left this one out in the rain because I know the front cover was off. I'm gonna wire wheel this and then clean it up with emery cloth, and it might still be pitted. If it is, we're gonna use a bushing instead of a bearing. It'll be fine. This looks good. You can always check your races. You know, you can tell if there's significant movement. That's about exactly what you would expect. I have no scoring on my bearings. This did get screwed up from, that's the bearing race that rides. Okay, so this is kind of a pain to get it out. There's a little lip in there. You can try to put a tiny little 2-hook puller with a slide hammer. It's probably not gonna work. The best way is gonna be a welder. You can either heat it up really hot with the welder and then it'll just fall out, or you can weld something to the either side of it, which you can then yank on to get it out. So we're gonna have to replace this. That's gonna be done off camera. So there you have it. I want to talk a little bit more. So I'm kind of monotone right now. I'm pretty burnt out at the moment about inspecting your gear teeth. We'll choose this because you can easily see this one here. So you want to look. See those little peaks? I'm looking right here on all of your gears. Those are pretty crisp. They're well formed. That's what wears when your synchro goes out. Okay, I think the Tremec said in the manual years back, if they're worn back more than 30% or so, then replace them. You'll see those start to round off quite a bit. I've seen really rounded ones that still shift. But if you're starting to get back there pretty far in the wear and they're rounded, then you're going to need to replace your gear. You need to check that on all of your gears. Additionally, check the tooth face. Okay, shaft's a little dirty, I haven't cleaned it yet. Right there on the tooth face, sometimes they'll develop a wear line, especially on the input and the cluster. If you're whining, then check the teeth face. You'll probably see a wear line going through the middle of it. That means you need to replace both the cluster and both the input. If you have a wear line, sometimes you can grab a really fine screwdriver, and if you can catch it with a screwdriver, that means you got to replace it. So those are your biggest areas where to check for wear. When you're done with this, make sure that you test the movement right before you install it in the car. This one you can, it'll fly off, but you know, this thing is ready. I'm going to put this on. Okay, so once again, we're going to go ahead and line up the middle just like that, and then I'm going to pop my keys in, but this time I'm going to do it off camera when well, anyway, see how easy that is. All right, so once that's done, you can actually begin to reassemble it, and I'm not going to do that yet. In fact, this is the front pump. This is broken. I'm going to talk more about this in a little while from now. I'm not going to get into that just yet. Here's our stage 2 kit. Comes with the isolator bushing. I think that's what it's called. That's where the shifter goes into. It's normally plastic. I got these from Texas Drivetrain Performance, although he says they're readily available also at AMP Distributing. I believe he said the difference with his is the 5.6R needed special machining to fit the TR6060. So in the past, I would hammer these on lightly, and it kind of jacks them up. So to get them off is easy, right? Just stick a flat tip screwdriver or your fingernail into there. All right, and then to get them back on, I found this is the easiest method right here. If you use a hammer to hammer them on, it's sloppy, and you wind up wallowing them out, and they have edges, then they don't slide very nicely. All right, so that's one that's on there. Okay, every once in a while they'll just pop on. If they do that and they fall off, you can put a little dab of RTV on there just to hold it in place. I also wanted to mention, when you're inspecting these teeth, like I had said before, inspect the teeth on the inside of your slider. If those are all worn out too, if this gear is worn out, then chances are the slider is worn out. You're going to replace both of them at the same time. So I'm going to go through now, and I'm going to put all these on. The stars, the sun, and the moon must align for this to work. This is how it should look when it's done. The little tab goes right in the middle between the two forks. Then we're gonna just, when the input's there, we're not ready for that step. If you've done this proper like me, that'll just slide on with no effort. There's all of our beautiful bushings. So that turned out very easily with this press. Once again, I'm at a disadvantage with one hand, but that's why I put it on off camera. Oh, see how easy that went on. All right, so we're not rolling off the table. All right, done that. Great progress. I'm at my point here, since I'm not repairing these, replacing these bushings. This will be put back on. Actually, we're going to talk about this a little bit. These break off very easily. It happens when somebody puts, I didn't do this, this on wrong and it doesn't align with the cluster. Okay, see those little grooves in there? Those align with your pump. Now, if you're not running an external cooler, you do not need this. This only works with the external cooler. That's the line for it. So, if that's the case, just delete it. Pull out this bearing race and pop that out. It's kind of pressed in. You got to pull these out. That's a clip. Vice grip it, and then use a slide hammer, some creativity. It's not in there too hard, then you can pull that out. And he is going to be running an external cooler on this, so I'll be swapping this out with a replacement one that I got from Texas Drivetrain Performance. Almost impossible to find, and they had them brand new, so look them up. They're a great place to get parts from. Here's what it looks like removed. Just goes in there. I actually just did that, tried it out, and it worked. Didn't mess up anything. Yeehaw. All right, so I jumped the gun, but don't get mad at me because I couldn't possibly do this one-handed. All right, so this is different than a T56. With an older T56, you would just drop the input in separate and then put this on top with this attached and then add the cluster and then add this, but it doesn't really work that way. I found that what I did on this is I assembled the synchronizer in there, okay, and then I took the input shaft and the main shaft as one and slid this on at the same time. Okay, you're gonna probably need a helper with this. Otherwise you could chance dropping the whole assembly because this has to go on at the same time as this as you drop it in the hole, and this has to stay elevated to slide this in, right? Okay, so don't completely freak out. You can avoid putting this in first, but you're really gonna kind of need a helper. So like I said, assemble the input shaft and the main shaft with the synchros on there, and then slide this on. Here's the position everything needs to be in. Okay, this is the neutral position. Take a good look at that. This will not just slide on after the fact like they always did before. It's too tight of a clearance now, which is probably going to help. You see, that doesn't come out. So as you're dropping this in with a friend and you're holding the input in the main and he's holding that, before it seats all the way down, you drop this in and you can use your big beer gut to hold the assembly forward, and you slide this in, and then as soon as that clicks, then you grab this and you slide this in, because this won't go in if the whole assembly is seated flat. So it kind of all has to go in together as one unit in order to fit. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I like it because T56s tend to give you kind of a bad time on assembly, especially when entering the pins that locate everything. It tends to be a pain in the butt. In theory, I think this thing is going to go together really nicely now. So everything is in. I tested that it's in the neutral position. I can spin the input and the main separate. So from here, we're going to be ready to drop the case on. One last look. I never took this off. This is a plastic ring that's always been on there along with my spacer. Okay, and there it is. One last look at this assembly. Time to clean up your gasket surfaces. All right, that one's already been done, but you're not going to bolt this one on until the very last step, so you could always come back and do it later. Wire wheel, Harbor Freight wire wheel on a drill. You're not going to mess anything up at all. All right. You get the idea. You don't need to watch. So I believe I'm ready for the next step. I haven't jumped ahead too far. Don't yell at me yet. So, actually, that didn't clean up as nicely as I thought it should with the RTV. I'll come back and touch that back up. All right. So take this and just lightly drop the case on. Okay. Want to show you? That's all I did was slide the case on until it's about ready to go on. It goes up just like this after you drop it at least once. All right. So I'm always at a disadvantage with my hand in this camcorder. I mean, phone. Fortunately, there's no spring on this. Oh, pull your pin out first. That's critical. So I got to finish driving that through. So I'm going to drive that through. I'm going to remove this old plastic bushing because I've got a metal one to put in there. I'll insert the metal one later. Here's where it can get complicated. I dropped it down and it locked itself into gear. So I'm going to have to shift that back up somehow. This sucks. There we go. All right, so I've got that back into the neutral position. Let me try sliding it back on again. I'm gonna try adding a little bit of wheel bearing grease. It'll dissolve in the ATF, so don't worry about it. I'm hoping this will make it slide because there's some ball bearings in there that I think it's catching on. I'm gonna go one step further and I'm gonna keep this fork from traveling down. Let's see if this works. I've just shoved a couple of old synchro rings in there as I push down and put this in here. Right, so I'm gonna just wiggle and push down now. Okay, so this part pretty much sucks, but make sure that you align this shift rail by putting a punch in it before you drop the case in. Make sure it's at the dead 12 o'clock position. You know, the little tab that goes through the little shift levers right there. You can move it so it's exactly the 12 o'clock position. Then I put the synchros under the fork, which helped it from traveling down. Now finally, here's gonna be the last part that sucks. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it in here or not. Let me see here. But I'll describe it to you. So, okay, whatever. If you look in there, you're gonna see the part that this fits into. What happens when you drop the case is it goes too low. So what I do is I take a very fine tip screwdriver and shove it in here like this, and then I shove up. You can see how it's moving that into the up position, right? If you don't do this, you're gonna cross thread these holes and it's not gonna fit between the groove in there. So you can even hold this up slightly too. See, I'm pulling it in up position and then insert that. If it doesn't go in easily, you're gonna cross thread it, guaranteed. I apologize if you've heard nothing but fan all this time. It's like 100 degrees out and I'm a pretty big guy, so I sweat. All right, so as soon as I pried that up with the screwdriver, I inserted that. I generally don't tighten them until the final step. Don't forget. I also don't put Loctite on them because, man, sometimes these can be a bear to get out. If you do, just put blue Loctite on and don't get too crazy. I don't tighten these until the last step in case I need it disassembled all the way down again. But like I said, don't forget. And the way I usually avoid forgetting to tighten it is I'll put that into my bucket of bolts, and then I know when I get to the last step and that's the only thing sitting there, oh yeah, I gotta tighten those. So I held and I pulled up on this, and then I put that in there and that went in like butter. Usually you shouldn't have a problem with this one. This one is usually pretty mild. So I get those in and I just seat them gently, you know, just enough for them to do their job, right? So at this point, I should be in neutral. I've double checked. You can tilt the whole transmission back so you can put your hand in there and grab it. At this point, oh, see, now I know I'm in neutral. Bam, I am in neutral. We are good to go. This excites the heck out of me. I love saying heck, but this is YouTube, right? Made for kids. In case you're 12 or 10 and you're assembling your first TR6060, you can do it very safely without learning any bad words. Whatever, man. All right, so here is the last step. Okay, so I think, okay, let me go through a couple of theories. You can get a threaded rod for this. In fact, that's technically how you check the end play on this. I think, and don't quote me, it might be an M12 by 1.25. And then you can get like just a steel, a sleeve, a tube or something from Ace Hardware or whatnot, a Home Depot, that just fits over this. And then you get just a threaded rod, right? And then you put a big nut on it and a huge washer or just a plate of steel that you cut a hole in it for the fit over the rod. And then once we get to the pressing, right, you would tighten the nut and it'll slowly press the gear down. Same thing for this, although I would hate to strip these out, but this is the nut where the flange goes on it for your, your dry shaft. And if you get a big tube of steel and a big fat washer, you should be able to tighten the nut and use this to press the gear down. The first thing I'm going to attempt to do, however, is stick that in the oven as high as my oven will go for a half hour. And I'm hoping that'll help it slide on like butter. If not, a couple of taps and it'll go down easily. I don't want to mess around with a bunch of threaded rod because I need to get this thing going. I don't want to spend the rest of my day at Home Depot or Ace Hardware looking for oddball parts. So, like always, I'll post back with my results. All right, so we're going to go ahead and assemble this in reverse order. This is, I believe this is 6th gear. In fact, I'm pretty certain it is. We've checked we're neutral. You saw me go like that. That means that we are in the neutral position. I've got my pins in, good enough to do their job. All right, so I might have to heat this up. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and put that on here. You see there's a little plastic thing that I had on there before in that spacer, right? I never pulled those out. Those are still on there. That sits just like that. You know it's right because it comes perfectly to the top of the ridge. All right, so this goes on like that. And I'm really trying to decide the methodology I want to use. Certainly one-handed isn't what I had in mind. I might try to put the bearing in it first and then drop it down. Car guys need to be born with 3 hands. All right. Go, you idiot. All right, good enough. I don't want to ruin this, so I'm going to push this down off camera and then I'm going to go from there. All right, this slid right down. I am happier than a pig in mud. As soon as I was off camera and I situated that plastic roller bearing inside there so that it fit properly, it just slid right down, which makes sense. My press fit is going to come from this. Right, and I know that these aren't on there too tight, so I should be able to tap this down. Okay, looks like there's no up and no down on this. They're the same thing on both sides. So here's your chance, get your synchros. Let's go ahead and, these are the old ones, but, we're gonna go ahead and put these in there. That goes down. It's pretty much these only go one way. That's gonna go up, right? So I'll do that and I'll be back. Hybrid synchros. Can't tell because it's all together, but right, and right. Man, these things grip. Always go back and forth a little bit. Make sure that, gives you a chance for your the lube on your synchro to catch. Make sure you got enough in there. I do. So at this point in time, all right, we're gonna go ahead and okay. Now when you do that, you see the tabs go towards the tabs. So put it in a position, like maybe the 3 o'clock position here. Okay, and then line one of these up the same direction as that. And what helps is let me see here. it seemed to be in a different flipping spot than the top ones. No? Same thing. So you can line it up with the one on the top. And then I'm going to tap that puppy down. Make sure it's all lined up. Remember my old bearing race? I'm lined up. You can see the top right there is lined up with the one on the bottom. Okay. Anyway, you can see it off camera. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Starting to get a little nervous, but let's see here. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. It's going down. Sorry. Going down. I'm going to continue doing this off camera. So far, it's taking very little. I got a million videos to edit. Put my finger on that side, tapped on this side, and I did it until it changed pitch. That is bottomed out. You can tell here. Now, if you screw this up and you get the synchro misaligned with this tab right here, what's going to happen is it's going to be clocked wrong. This isn't going to go all the way down. It's going to piss you off. You're going to have to put your 2-jaw puller or whatever you're using back onto the darn gear and pull the whole thing off. And then you're going to get really pissed. Okay? Looks like I got a clip that goes there. Well, I'm going to check my photos that I took and see what's next. And I'll be back in a minute. All right, here we are. That little tab. See how it's kind of pointed up? All right. We're going to go down. Where's my dog? Come here, dog. Say hi to the YouTube world. You're about ready to be famous. Here's the super mutt. Hey, puppy. All right, go inside. Oh, look at that. Good dog. All right, so I'm going to have to do this off camera. You don't need to see me put a clip on. Maybe you do. Let's see if I can. This is not easy, guys. All right. Whatever. The clip goes into the groove. Off camera, I put my bronze stage 2 bushings in there. They're not called bushings, but whatever. I don't care right now. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. Go straight down like that. If your clip does not go on and sit in a groove, your synchro isn't right. Oh, also, as you're doing this, remember to do the dot, dot, dot right in the middle. So this is going to require both my hands. This will slide straight down, and I'll show you when I get it. That went on beautifully. Once I lined it up, it slid on perfect. I don't know if you can see this. The indentations are perfectly in the middle. Anyway. The magic of cell phone video. Whatever, you get the idea. This has seated. There's a groove right there that this is going to go into. This was missing when I tore it down. You're going to see kind of a flat side and more of a rounded side. The part that's completely flat is going to go up. Okay, and then I am going to manually push these babies in like you see me do 100 times already. All right, so you get the idea. Then I'll put that clip on and I'll come back. There it is. Make absolutely sure that clip seats firmly in the groove. I think I have transmission fluid on my screen. Sorry guys, give me a second. Amateur already. That's not gonna hurt a bit. Okay, so get your pliers on there, open it, put it on there, tap it, make sure, and usually you'll hear it go snap, and it's in there. Sometimes you can actually get your needle nose pliers on there and push on it a little bit and it'll rotate. That has to be seated on there firmly, or you will be pleasantly surprised when you lose probably 5th gear and that snap ring comes off. So far, knock on old greasy wood, I could not be more possibly pleased with this. I actually tilted the whole trans back, grabbed the input under there, grabbed the output up there, as you see it so far, and we're still in neutral, everything's kosher. Those popped in with little effort. Here's an overshot of it. Our next steps, I got my new hybrid carbon fiber synchro. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and drop that in just as you see it, straight down. Tabs go towards the tabs on that, right? It's only gonna go in, oh, boom, there it is. Okay, and I have pre-lubed it, spun it. Okay, we have 2 parts next, boom and boom. That goes down, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and put this spacer on. Okay, I'm gonna get said bearing race. Sorry, almost forgot to record for you. The gear, and look at how nice and sharp those dog teeth are. This is 5th gear. Boom, right? Okay, there it is. See, now it's perfect. Okay, so we have, doesn't matter which way. Okay, and then finally, let's find our teeth. Some of these don't have them. I'm gonna install this one. I'll install this one up just like this. It's gonna fit into groove. See, everything is gonna work here. I'm gonna do that off camera. That there's an up or a down to this, but nonetheless, I installed this in the exact same position. This is your reverse gear, part of your reverse gear. And I'm already tapped it part way down. I'm using a sledge with this. I'm gonna put this on. There's a groove right about right there. All right, let me get my favorite little bearing race. If this one's too big, I've got others. Let me see here. I think that'll work. Off camera, I'm gonna tap it down. Took a little more pressure to tap it, but nothing that was so unnerving that I wasn't willing to continue. Like I said, I've been I've been using this method for 18 years, and if you have common sense, you're never gonna break anything. You can also try putting this one in the oven to heat it up a little bit more if it makes you a little nervous. It really went on pretty easily. There's the snap ring. It fits perfectly into the groove and the gear. So I believe, oh yeah, before I continue, sorry, scatterbrained. 5, 6, and R all have the same synchro. I believe first gear is the only one that's different. Okay, so I believe that's gonna go on next. That's for my reverse gear, then that's gonna go on next. I have these in a position that they're installed in the upside down, right? So let's walk over there with this. Oh, I gotta put my tabs on. So I'll come back. Okay, this goes on first, right? And it's gonna go like that, and this piece I'm afraid is going to be a lot more of a press, and so I don't want to start wallowing on it and then find out a quarter of the way down that, oh crap, I really need something hard to press it on with. So I am going to steal the wife's oven for this one, and I am going to go ahead and throw this in at 550 for a half hour, and then I'm going to come on, I'm gonna put it on, and I'm gonna use that bearing race, and I'm gonna hope it just goes whoop. At this point in time, you're good to try bench testing it on the shift. Not reverse, but everything else. Right? That's first, second, like butter. Third, fourth, or I might have that backwards, and then it's harder offline. I did 5-6, and I watched that engage 5-6. That means everything is shifting and doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. So at this point, I know I'm good for reverse and finish up the transmission. What's for dinner? So yummy. All right, we have some home cooking going on here, man. Man, I just literally dropped it and under its. Oh, yeah. Woo, woo! Oh, man. Wow. Okay. I didn't expect that to work so darn well. That was about 27 minutes at 500 degrees. Absolutely beautiful. My God. These go on next. Those are the lock-in keepers or whatever the hell. I'm too excited to be able to think straight. Coming off a night shift, so I haven't really gotten any sleep. I'm going to let this gear cool down a little bit before I start putting these extra parts on in that slider with those plastic clips. I'm going to go back down on the couch and continue to watch some television. I'm losing steam really quick. I'm tired. Here's the order of operation. Okay. Okay. Come on, stupid. I don't have any patience for you. Once again, this will be an off-camera thing. I got to make sure I got those oriented right. That's going to go on. Then that's going to go on. This is the keeper for those to make sure those don't overextend and go down, since your reverse only goes one direction, which is up. Oops. That's going to get tapped on straight down. And then after that's tapped on, it's going to be held on to this groove with that. Then we're going to put that fork on. Got that on, went on pretty easily off camera once I had two hands. See, I'm not using a ton of pressure and it's going down. So, back in a minute after I finish this. Sets flush, you know you're good when the clip goes on perfectly. I don't remember if this goes down or not. I think this goes like that, if memory serves. Let's see here. Oh, come on. Here we go. Yeah, it's going to be that direction. So take your ... or groove and line it up. I haven't done that yet. One stupid. All right. Man, I could use some sleep. Maybe one more. That looks pretty good. Sorry if I was off camera a little bit. All right, so I was wrong. This slider is the exact same thing on both sides. So I'm just gonna do that. In fact, you should be able to reverse the slider if one end wears out. That's what we do on the T56s. We reverse the slider and you got a whole new fresh side if it's all worn on the reverse side. Oh, come on. There it is. Right there in the middle. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and push these in. And then I got that tiny little horseshoe clip. Hopefully I didn't lose it, but I know I keep spares around. Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure I'll put it in here. And here it is. That's going to go on last. Right? Flat side up. sits. I don't know if you can tell, that's kind of rounded and that's flat. So it's going to go like that. Make sure, once again, it sits in there perfectly. This is going to be a reverse gear. So I'm going to go off camera and finish assembling this. All right, so that is seated in the groove perfectly. I pushed those in. Overhead view of everything. All right, this is next. Sits on top of the clip. Okay, bearing. Okay. Okay. Oh, poop. What did I do wrong? You know that I have not been getting much sleep. I already discussed this. So, you'll have to forgive me a little bit as I go ahead and add the reverse gear. Usually that's important. So let's go ahead and add the reverse gear. Sorry. That doesn't seem right. I gotta go back and look at my pictures. I am gonna completely skip over the fact that I just assembled the whole top half of this thing without dropping that synchro in. And we're gonna pretend like we're starting off where we should. Drop your synchro in, okay? The lock clip is already in there. Okay, we're gonna drop this on. Should go straight on. Remember, if you have issues, just spin it, it'll go right on. Next is your reverse gear. Inspect your teeth. Mine are pretty sharp. This gear can wear pretty easily if you have any synchro issues. Okay. Beautiful. All right, there it is, loosened up. Now we need the lock clip. It's not that, it's not that, it's one of these. These are all the same. I'm gonna put this on next. I'll come back. I can't do it at the same time as recording. Clip is on, right? So this is a bearing. One of these days I'll build a transmission with using both my hands. How would that be? All right. So I'm just going to tell you what's next. That goes on. Once that's on, we're going to go to our speedo gear. And this was a bit of a press fit. I would suggest dumping this in the oven for a few minutes to heat it up. It'll slide right on. I'm going to go ahead and ignore my own advice. This is going to go, once this clip is down here, you're going to put a clip here. You're going to put the speedo gear on here and then a clip here. You'll see it in a minute. It's fully assembled. Gear, spacer, clip, little washer thingy, bearing, little washer thingy, clip, speedo gear, clip. That finishes the top half of your motor with the exception, this is actually a transmission, the exception of this. My son's going to be pissed. I had to call him for this. So what I did is I lined it up. I put my 3/16 punch in here. All right. And then once I did that, I pulled it out and I held it there. Then with my other hand, I held the pin here and I had my son tap the pin enough to get it started. Then I just went whack and pushed it in. I also wanted to show you the punch that I've been using. Would have been good to start off with this in the front of the video, but better late than never. Okay, this is a proper roll pin punch. Let's see if I can get that. Go on. There it is. See the tip is kind of beveled or whatever. It's got a bump on it. That way it locks into it nice. Your typical punch has a flat end. So off camera, I'm going to drive this in. Would you look at that? Dropped right on like magic. All right. Forgot I got to replace the seal on this thing first because I got a new one. I may as well use it. So I wanted to show you a couple things. Doesn't seem to be the case as much in this transmission, but on the old T56s, I had issues with this dropping straight on. So if that happens on this, you see, that doesn't even move much anymore. This transmission is definitely nice. I was going to say you can try pushing on that with a flat tip screwdriver to seat it in place, but this transmission is built really so much better than those old T56s. Anyway, I'm going to drive this seal out. I'm just going to put my little my seal popper outer on that, and then they gave me a new one right here, and I'm gonna drive that new seal in. So then after that, we're gonna go ahead and lay clean the surface up and lay a bead of RTV on there, drop it down, and then run some bolts on it. All right, so I've tightened that. I don't know the torque spec. It's a few ooga-oogas with the impact. I use this one that doesn't go higher than 70 to 80 foot-pounds anyhow. So just use reason, or you're welcome to look up the torque spec. I drove in that bushing. Yeah, it kind of got wallowed out, but it works. I already put the shifter on. It's a tight fit, so you might want to chuck this up in your vise and drive that bushing in before you get all of this on. But even if you don't, it's fine. So this one is running a cool little, I think it's called Sicky shifter, S-I-K-K-Y or something like that. So basically this converts it to a T56 Magnum, more or less. You don't have that funky TR6060 remote shifter. Or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but regardless, this is a pretty sweet shifter. It gets rid of all that funky linkage from the stock TR6060. So now a couple things. I haven't shimmed it. This transmission is very low mile, so I'm not going to. It seems easy enough though compared to the old T56. You can look up online shimming, but instead of 3 places to shim, this one has 2, the counter shaft and the shaft. Anyway, the final thing I have to do is flip this transmission back on its side. All right, and then I have to put the new pump into the bell housing, and then put this back together and then tighten those. I'm pretty much spent. I can't really go further. I'm exhausted. I need to sit down and have a drink. Friday night, ready to watch some TV and do nothing. So pretty excited. So this thing's almost done. That the flange I read gets 100 foot-pounds, so you'll probably need a strap wrench to get that thing tight. So, or you can just hit it down with the impact and not care. I'm going to try to torque it. Anyway, it's been fun. We are on a home stretch, but I can't finish this right now. I'm too tired. I'm on to the home stretch here. I have simply laid it down. I've got V-blocks, you know. So at this point, the bell housing should, in theory, just slide right off. All right. That went as planned. Fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna make sure that my gasket surfaces are clean. However, I'm going to install this first. I've got a new one. Let's just ruin another good shirt. I'm just gonna get a socket and just tap that in. It's a light press, right? Oh, looks like all of that inside is part of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap that in, and then if you guys remember, there was that clip that held it in. All right, so here it is. Everything's mocked up. I got 4 bolts holding this thing in. This spins nicely. I've tried pulling in and out. There's no play. Like I've said before, I'm not shimming this transmission, so this one was a pretty low mile original. I've taken the shifter, I put it on, I bench shifted it, everything works. So I'm going to pull the bell housing back apart, going to RTV it, put it together for the final time, and I'm done. All right, so I'm using this stuff from Harbor Freight, $3.99 a tube. I've used it on a couple of 100 transmissions at least. Never seen a leak. Don't go ape, you don't need that much. Spread it on with your finger. Here's the final assembly. Make sure that the groove for this pump is lined up perfectly. If you don't, you're gonna break those two tabs off. That bell housing will slide on perfectly. If it's cocked, that means that you're caught. Do not proceed further. So I'm gonna allow this to tack up for another couple minutes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put it on and ug it down with the impact. All right, so I'm gonna record this, and I'm gonna put this as in the beginning and in the end. So you've got 3 items, okay? The first is, this lines up with, I don't know what it's called, but it lines up with the shift rod in there. And this drops in straight like that, right? The ball facing that way. Okay? Now the next is the spring. And finally, you've got the nut. So in the first step, the very first thing when you start building this transmission, you pull that nut, you go in there and you pull this stuff out, right? Once you get the spring out, you put that in there and then you grab that out, right? And of course, this is the second to final step also. The final step being to torque the flange on, which we'll do next. So I'm gonna tighten this down. This ends this video. This goes on last. Slip it on. Put the washer on. Put the nut on. Then, judgment call. Use the impact and as long as you have one that doesn't go above 100 foot-pounds, you're not going to mess it up, such as that one. Or you can use a strap wrench around here to hold it into place. You can try locking it in the gear and having somebody hold on to the input. 100 foot-pounds from what I read on the internet for this. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I did bench shift it on the bench. Everything works great. Everything spins great. So, thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps you out. Woohoo! I can't reach the other ones because I'm only one-handed. We did it, guys. Yeehaw. Kind of a slick shifter. I like that thing.